Okay, so Babylon the Great, at least to me, fits Rome historically. Revelation describes Babylon as a city on seven hills. So the implication is that if Babylon is Rome, then its destruction is a climactic judgment event, an Armageddon like outcome. The beast is most likely the Roman Empire system. The beast in Revelation, if you read it, you'll see that it rules over nations, it persecutes saints, and it demands allegiance. And this matches the Roman imperial system, especially under empires like Nero. The number 666 also is commonly linked to Nero via Hebrew gematria. So what does this mean? The beast is the imperial occult Caesar worship, right? That system. And its fall is the defeat of this wicked beast and that system in Revelation 19. Armageddon is seen as being symbolic. I mean, that's when I do my research, that's what I see, that it's more of a symbolic kind of event rather than a literal battlefield. So Armageddon is Har Megiddo, which is Mount Megiddo, and it's basically a symbolic event. So Armageddon represents a decisive divine judgment event, not necessarily a future worldwide battlefield, making Rome's fall a visible fulfillment. The destruction language matches Rome's collapse. So Revelation describes Babylon's fall as being a sudden destruction, with Rome experiencing sackings, right? So 410 AD by the Visigoths, 455 AD by the Vandals, and then in 476 with the actual fall of the ancient Roman Empire. There's economic breakdown, there's plagues, there's diseases, there's a loss of worldwide dominance. So the language of Revelation closely mirrors Rome's historical downfall. Now, Christ's coming in judgment fits historical patterns, right? So what we see is that God coming in the clouds often means judgment on the nations, okay? And we see this all throughout Scripture, right? So in Matthew 24, Jesus speaks of judgment within that generation, right? And then we see events tied to the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And if we were to extend this pattern to Rome, we see that Rome, being the persecuting power, later falls, which is seen as Christ's continued judgment and triumph against the beast and that system. So Armageddon is a series of divine judgments culminating in Rome's destruction rather than a single future event. Now, couldn't there have been a spiritual battle behind the scenes between the forces of darkness and the beast system and the forces of Christ, along with the kings who gathered against Rome to sack Rome? Yes. And we do see Revelation already showing a behind the scenes war in Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 to 9, as there is a war in heaven and Satan is cast down. Now, when there is a spiritual war, obviously there are earthly consequences. Earthly kings can unknowingly serve divine judgment. In Revelation 17, verses 16 to 17, the kings destroy Babylon. The kings of the world at that time in ancient Roman Empire destroy Babylon, Rome. And this is huge, right? Because this means to say that when kings act, God is the one who's directing the outcome, right? Because we're looking at the Visigoths having sacked Rome in 410 AD, then the Vandals having sacked Rome in 455 AD, right? And we are seeing these Germanic kingdoms, right? And these kings from these Germanic kingdoms are fitting a pattern. They think they're conquering, but they're actually executing divine judgment. So this battle is both spiritual, but it's also historical. In Revelation 19, verses 19, the beasts and the kings of the earth gathered to make war. So on the surface, what you're seeing is political alliances, military campaigns, but underneath it, there is spiritual alignment, the darkness versus Christ's authority. And, you know, Christ doesn't fight, he overrules. In Revelation 19, verse 15, out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, is an important detail that a lot of people bypass. Christ doesn't swing a weapon, he speaks and judgment happens. So what do we see here? We see spiritual authority being Christ, influencing outcomes, earthly powers act, and an empire collapses. If you were to break this down into phases, phase 1, there's a spiritual war beginning Revelation chapter 12, Satan being cast down. And then phase 2, you're seeing a beast system rising, which is Rome. The empire persecutes believers and it centralizes its power. And then the kings later turn against this system. There is internal decay and external invasions. And God puts all of these conquerings in the hearts of these kings against the ancient Roman Empire, against that system, the beast system in Babylon. And then phase forward is there is a collapse of the system. There is sackings, there's fragmentation, and this culminates in the fall of the ancient Roman Empire. Phase 5 is Christ's victory. It's not seen as a visible appearance per se, but we are seeing judgment, there's transfer of power, and there's an end of this persecution type system. And Armageddon isn't just a physical war, it's a spiritual judgment that plays out through real world empires collapsing. Revelation does not explicitly say these specific kings being the Visigoths and Vandals, but it does clearly teach God uses nations to judge other nations, and that spiritual forces operate behind earthly events. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But to me, it actually appears that, like, this question needs to be put out there. What if the armies that destroyed Rome weren't just invading, but were unknowingly participating in spiritual war already decided in heaven? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.